Let's talk about the nav system or the nav application, which is the second one here, and let's make sure that it's full screen so we can see what we're talking about. So a couple of things that are people are asking, and I don't think they're evident once if you don't have the car or if you have it for a short amount period of time and you haven't played enough with it. So the navigation is pretty accurate. I mean, I know some people arguing, but based on the trips we did, and the last one was 3,000 miles to Atlanta, it's been pretty much 98% accurate. There was only one small case where it said something is there, but it wasn't. In any other case, it was dead on. Extremely accurate and very, very helpful. One thing I want to mention here is people are asking, is the traffic taken into consideration? And one of the cons of this application is that it doesn't show you the traffic. I don't know why it was. I'm assuming that for simplicity reasons and for being more elegant and less busy, maybe, but the Google does it in a nice way and other apps do it in a nice way, so I don't know why they omitted that. But right now, if we go to the controls and to the settings and to the app section and we go to maps and navigation, what you're going to see is four sections here that are quite important, especially this one. Traffic-based routing. You want it to be on, and you want it to be on because you want to take into account the traffic when you're driving. On our trip, when you're trying to run away from Irma, this was a lifesaver because it got us into way better routes, and it saved us tons of time while we were going through all kinds of local roads and sightseeing while people were stuck with hours in traffic. Definitely must be on when you're driving, in my opinion. And then the next one is to actually do the rerouting for you if it's gonna save you more than 10 minutes, and you can change that. Okay, well, if it saves you more than 5, if it saves you more than 10, I think I never changed this, was default. So show commute advice only when faster route is available. I mean, I don't, these probably are the default settings because I don't remember ever changing them, but I guess what I wanted to make sure is that people understand that this is taking into account the traffic. It just doesn't show it because we were trying to like compare to Google and we were doing side by side Google and this was either better or similar to Google. So I mean, they kind of use Google anyway, so I don't know why in some cases this was actually more accurate than Google, but anyway, this is one thing to make sure that you're aware of and you keep that in mind. The next thing I wanted to talk about is when you're trying to go to a far big trip. Let's say we're going from Florida to Atlanta. It's not a short trip, right? It's 3,000 miles, close to, actually it's not 3,000, I'm sorry. It's 600 or something miles, but yeah, 624 miles. But it's a pretty good travel trip. It's 12 hours. So one thing you want to know is here is your supercharger. So the way it works is the navigation will tell you, well, it's an electric car, right? You got to go from A to B, but you don't have gas stations, so you got to stop on each supercharger and basically charge there and then continue. So you see right now on the first one it will be 34%. So when we get to there, the calculation that the car does is that we will be on a battery on 34%. We need to charge for 30 minutes so we can continue to Ocala. From Ocala we need to charge 25 minutes to Lake City. Lake City we need to charge 25 minutes, then we can continue to Tifton. Tifton we have 1 hour, and in Atlanta we will be at 10%. Now what you have to have in mind here is that when you stop on these superchargers, the intention there is not to charge 100%. It would actually, and let me show you this here, it will be better. It would actually charge way faster the first the first half, and so much slower the second. And the intention here is, I don't know if it's software based by Tesla, and I would assume it is. The intention there is they don't want you to sit on those stops and just charge your car fully. There is no need for that, where you can free the spot for somebody else, especially when all those people with Model 3s are coming up soon. So you gotta make sure that this is as efficient as possible. As a matter of fact, if you leave your car standing on the supercharger and it's charged fully and it stays there, you get a notification on your phone that tells you that you're gonna get charged for the amount of time you're staying extra where the car is fully charged. So there is definitely disincentivized by Tesla, and there is no need for it. So with that all being said, what happens here is the trip will tell me, okay, this is your route. Let's go back to the main thing. Let's go this way. Yeah. So basically, these just change the viewpoint from to like a full-blown A to B to just the sections that you need to from, like for example, from this just to the supercharger that you need to. But one thing I wanted to point out is that you can show all the superchargers by just pressing the supercharger button here, and what will happen is you would actually see other superchargers along the way. And this is super important because when we were doing this crazy trip running away from Irma, we didn't want to go to an estimated 10% Ford drum charger, because along the way we could be 4 or 5 hours in traffic. So the intention there was that we're going to stop on every other, or we're going to miss other and stop on Port St. Lucie, for example, make sure we have an extra 30% battery, and then continue to Fort Drum, etc., etc. So that's critical to know, that you can actually plan your trip. Like for example, right now I have to go here, so there's no reason why I cannot stop on westbound supercharger, or actually stop in Port St. Lucie supercharger and get some extra miles there that I need to go forward. And with the recent upgrade, is you will notice is that it actually tells you now how many cars are on each one of the superchargers. Like for example, here it will tell me that at least 4 of the stalls are available, etc. So definitely keep that in mind. I think it's critical to know and to plan around that. Obviously, if there's no hurricane chasing your tail, then you don't really care. You can just get there 10%, 15%, even 5%. There's no problem there. Just charge and continue. Just remember that definitely is disincentivized to charge more than it's needed by the navigation. And at the end of the day, you're gonna charge fully when you get where you need to get. So hopefully that helps. One other thing to know is it says 12 hours 55 in our trip. Our experience is that it ended up being probably 30 to 40 to 50% in some cases longer. Trips that are supposed to be 4 hours with a gas car ended up being 6 or 7 with electric Tesla. Partially because, and this is important, this is I know a lot of people argue this, but we wanted to make sure that you have 30, 40, not 40, but between 25 and 30%, 20 to 30% extra battery when we get to whatever we need to get, just because we didn't know on these sections here how much traffic, how much craziness it will be during one of the biggest hurricanes ever. So if we didn't do that, I would assume that would decrease the amount of time that we ended up being added significantly. But just having that in mind, if you want to have those extra stops, then obviously you need to add additional time, and it's not going to be like your gas car, like you just stop on a gas station and charge. I know it's not a comparable thing. It's way better in the electric car overall. I'm just trying to make sure that if people are jumping to electric car right now, they know the differences right away, and they don't experience this like we did on our trips, to make sure that they plan accordingly. So again, important thing is to know how to read this. Make sure you understand that you can see your chargers here, and you can plan and stop based on them. You can also use plug share. We used that actually quite a few times, where along that route you ended up like maybe the supercharger is down for whatever reason, now you have to charge somewhere. You plugshare.com, and over there it has all kinds of extra chargers along the way. Like for example, in Orlando, in Atlanta, actually one of the hotels had actually a Tesla charger in the parking lot, so we can charge there. It wasn't specified on because it's not an official Tesla charger, etc., etc. So this and the map and the plug share are your best friends for your trips. Hopefully that helps. Thank you.